So I have been a pastor or a minister for 29 years. It's hard to believe when I'm so youthful looking, isn't it? When I tell people I'm a minister, I usually get one of two responses. For those who have a historical connection to the church, it's usually the head nod, oh, minister, oh. But for people who don't do church, and I tell them I'm a minister, usually the response is more like, what is that anyway? Now the funny thing is that I'm beginning to be persuaded that neither group, for the most part, actually understands or fully understands what a minister is from the perspective of the Bible. For those who think they know, their reflex defaults to something like, a person who teaches in a church and who provides emotional or spiritual care when someone is in a position of need. Okay. But the Bible offers a description that is much, much broader and quite simply far too diverse for any one person to do it all well. The Bible says, that's what it says, here are the gifts that Christ gave to the church: apostles, prophets, evangelists, pastors, and teachers, whose responsibility is to equip God's people to do God's work. That's from the Bible book of Ephesians. 5 distinctly different responsibilities, yet in most church settings you'll find a minister who's able to do 2, maybe 3 of those well, and then in too many settings the other categories become largely ignored, even forgotten. And I would have to confess that in the church that I'm responsible for, I've let that slide, I've let that happen. But what if we take a step backwards and reorganize our understanding of ministry into a model that more effectively celebrates and releases all 5 of these ministry categories? Apostles. These are the people who are comfortable going outside of the box, the entrepreneurs or the innovators. Prophets. People who have the God-given intuition to be able to sense the path that we're on, where it's going to end up, and in fact tell us when we need to change paths. The evangelists. People who just have an uncanny knack of telling the story of Jesus in a wonderfully attractive way. Shepherds or pastors. These are people who just seem to know the best way to care for us when we're hurting. And teachers. People who have the ability to take the abstract and difficult questions of life and just make them make sense. The Bible is saying that all of these need to be sorted out for the church to be fully equipped to do the work of God. But also, it seems to me that these 5 categories aren't only about the church. Don't they actually speak to all of life? The need to be growing and adapting, needing to be certain of the path that we're on, being certain of our relationship with God, knowing that we are never alone in this path, and being able to work through the really difficult questions of life. This Sunday at BrantNaz, we're going to start unpacking these ministry gifts. 11 a.m. Join us in person, or you can catch us on the live stream in our Facebook BrantNaz group. One last thing. You have been specifically gifted in one or more of these areas. It might not be a bad idea to figure out where you fit into God's plan. I'm Pastor Gord at BrantNaz. I look forward to seeing you on Sunday.